Today, we're diving into the world of beaches, specifically Phuket, Thailand.
Cool.
Now, you might be thinking,
Yeah.
Thailand. I'm not going to Thailand anytime soon.
All right.
But trust me,
Yeah.
the findings of this research paper, they have implications for beaches, like everywhere.
Okay. Yeah.
We're talking about how beaches change, the impact of rising sea level,
Right.
and how humans can either help or hurt these beautiful ecosystems.
I see.
Buckle up. This deep dive might just change how you think about your next beach vacation.
Interesting.
So what's so captivating about this particular study?
Well, this study, it focuses on Phuket, which is a global tourism hotspot,
Yeah.
boasting some of the world's most stunning beaches. In fact, U.S. News Travel ranks them as number 2.
Second best in the world.
Wow.
Wow, that's impressive. But I imagine that also means a lot is at stake if those beaches start to disappear.
Precisely. Tourism in Phuket accounts for a staggering 15% of Thailand's GDP.
Wow.
So we're not just talking about losing a picturesque view, we're talking about a potential economic hit that could ripple throughout the country.
Yeah?
This is why understanding beach erosion in Phuket is so critical.
Okay, so let's dive into how the researchers actually tackled this study. I was intrigued when I saw they used a combination of high-tech and on-the-ground approaches.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
To track how the shoreline has changed over time, they used satellite images from Landsat 8.
Okay.
Which is freely available, by the way.
Yeah.
This let them analyze 8 years worth of data from 2013 to 2021. But they didn't stop there.
Oh.
To really get a feel for the beaches, they actually went to Phuket in April 2022.
Wait, hold on. You're telling me anyone with an internet connection can access this satellite data
Yeah,
and potentially do their own analysis?
absolutely. There's even a toolkit called CoastSat that makes it possible.
Wow.
Pretty cool, right?
That is really cool.
But as I was saying, the researchers also did fieldwork in Phuket.
Okay.
They measured the slopes of the beaches, took sand samples, even looked at existing coastal structures.
I love that they combine satellite data with actual boots-on-the-ground observations.
Yeah.
That definitely makes their findings more compelling. So, drumroll please, what did they discover? Are Phuket's beaches vanishing before our eyes?
Well, it's a bit of a mixed bag.
Okay.
Out of the 33 beaches they studied, 8 showed signs of erosion.
Okay.
But here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
The rate of erosion varied from beach to beach, with some experiencing mild erosion and others facing a more moderate pace.
Gotcha.
For instance, an Antaralayan beach, labeled PKT6 in the study,
Okay.
had the most significant erosion rate.
Wow.
They noticed an outlet channel there that could be contributing to the problem.
Oh, interesting.
Do you think this channel is a natural formation
Yeah.
or something created by humans?
Ooh, good question. My gut says it's probably man-made, but I guess we'll find out as we go deeper.
We shall see. And adding another layer of complexity,
Yeah.
the study found that erosion tends to worsen over time.
Huh.
In other words, the longer erosion goes on, the more severe it becomes.
Oh, so there's definitely a sense of urgency here.
Yeah.
We need to understand why some beaches are eroding faster than others.
Right.
Is that where those sand samples come in?
Yes.
I'm guessing they weren't just for show.
You guessed right.
Okay.
Those sand samples were key
Yeah.
to understanding a crucial factor in beach stability, the relationship between the size of sediment grains and the slope of the beach.
Oh.
Think of it this way. Imagine trying to build a sandcastle
Yeah.
on a steep slope versus a gentle one.
I can see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
On a steep slope, the sand would just slide down. Right.
Exactly. The steeper the beach, the larger and coarser the sand grains tend to be. This helps them stay put. On gentler beaches, you'll find finer, smaller grains. But here's where things get even more intriguing. The researchers found some exceptions to this rule. PKT22, for example, had the largest grain size, but not the steepest slope, while PKT33 had the steepest slope, but not the largest grain size.
Now, my head is spinning a little. Why would that be? What's going on there?
It's a fascinating question the study leaves us pondering, but it highlights just how intricate and dynamic beaches truly are. And speaking of dynamics, we can't ignore the role humans play in all of this.
Right.
Remember how we mentioned that Phuket is heavily developed?
Yeah.
Well, the researchers discovered that human activity can significantly impact what's known as beach morphology.
Beach morphology. So we're not just talking about erosion here.
Right. Beach morphology refers to the shape and features of a beach. And what the researchers found is that our actions Even those intended to protect beaches
Yeah.
can sometimes backfire. For instance, coastal urbanization often leads to the construction of drainage channels
Okay.
that funnel water directly into the sea.
Okay.
This can disrupt the natural flow of sediment, which is essential for a healthy beach.
So it's not just Mother Nature at work here. We're meddling with the system too.
Unfortunately, yes. And another example is the construction of seawalls.
Okay.
While intended to protect the coast, they can sometimes worsen erosion in other areas.
Right.
It's like trying to fix one problem,
Yeah.
but inadvertently creating another.
This is making me rethink my whole build a house on the beach dream.
Yeah.
It sounds like even our best intentions can have unintended consequences. What are some other ways humans are impacting beach morphology? Okay, my build a house on the beach dreams are officially on hold after that last segment. But seriously, this is making me think about the bigger picture. If even our attempts to protect beaches can backfire, what can we actually do to safeguard them from both erosion and rising sea levels?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And there's no easy answer. But before we delve into potential solutions, I think it's worth circling back to that intriguing link between sediment grain size and beach slope. It's not just about the size of the grains, but also about how they're distributed.
You mean like having a variety of sizes?
Exactly. A beach with a good mix of grain sizes is generally more resilient to erosion. Imagine building a sandcastle using only one size of sand grain. It wouldn't be very sturdy, would it? But if you add some larger pieces for structure and smaller grains to fill the gaps, you get a much stronger and more stable creation. It's the same principle with beaches.
Okay, I'm starting to see how that analogy plays out on a real beach.
Yeah.
The different grain sizes create a more interlocking structure.
Precisely. And here's where human actions can throw a wrench into the works. When we build structures like seawalls or jetties, we interrupt the natural flow of sediment along the coast. This can lead to an imbalance in the distribution of grain sizes, making the beach more vulnerable to erosion.
So it's like we're messing with the beach's natural defense mechanisms.
That's a great way to put it. And it underscores why understanding sediment dynamics is crucial for responsible coastal development. It's not just about protecting buildings, it's about protecting the very systems that make a beach a beach.
Okay, so let's get back to those solutions. What are some ways we can actually protect beaches from the combined threats of erosion and sea level rise?
There are actually a range of approaches, some more natural and others more engineered. One common method is beach nourishment, which you might have heard of.
Yeah, isn't that where they basically just dump a bunch of sand onto the beach?
Essentially, yes. They dredge sand from offshore sources and add it to the eroding beach to widen it and create a buffer against waves.
Sounds straightforward enough. Does it actually work?
It can be effective, but it's not a permanent fix. Nourished beaches often erode again over time, requiring repeat applications. And there are environmental considerations as well. Dredging can disrupt marine habitats, and the sand used for nourishment needs to be carefully matched to the existing beach sand to avoid ecological imbalances.
So it's not a perfect solution, but it can buy some time. Are there any other options that might be more sustainable?
Another approach is to utilize natural barriers like dunes and vegetation to help stabilize the shoreline.
So like planting more beach grass and things like that.
Exactly. Dunes act as natural buffers against waves and wind, while vegetation helps anchor the sand and prevent erosion. Plus, they provide valuable habitat for wildlife. Restoring and protecting these natural defenses can be a very effective way to enhance beach resilience.
I like that it's a more natural approach, working with nature instead of against it. What about those hard structures we talked about earlier, like seawalls? Are they ever a good solution?
Seawalls and other hard structures can be effective in safeguarding property in the short term. However, they often come with unintended consequences. As we discussed, they can disrupt sediment flow, leading to erosion in adjacent areas. And they can create a false sense of security, encouraging development in zones that are ultimately at risk from sea level rise.
So they're kind of like a Band-Aid solution. They might address the immediate problem, but could make things worse in the long run.
That's a good analogy. In certain cases, they might be necessary to protect critical infrastructure, but they should be employed judiciously and with a careful assessment of the potential impacts.
It sounds like there's no magic bullet here. Each approach has its pros and cons.
You're right. There's no one-size-fits-all solution to beach erosion and sea level rise. It demands a holistic approach that considers the unique characteristics of each beach, the needs of the local community, and the long-term environmental impacts. It often involves combining different methods, such as using natural barriers in conjunction with strategically placed hard structures.
This is all incredibly insightful, but it also feels a bit overwhelming. It's easy to feel like these problems are too big for any one person to tackle. What can the average beachgoer like myself actually do to help?
That's a great question. And the good news is that we can all play a part. First and foremost, be mindful of your impact. Stay off dunes and vegetation, dispose of trash properly, and avoid disturbing wildlife.
So basically just being a responsible visitor.
Exactly. And you can also support organizations that are working to protect and restore coastal habitats. There are many groups doing fantastic work in this area. You can volunteer your time, donate money, or simply help raise awareness.
Okay, so we can all make a difference through our actions and support. That's empowering. Before we move on, I wanted to touch on something specific to Phuket that the study mentioned. They talked about how some of the erosion might be made worse by man-made drainage channels.
Yes. Those channels were a key finding. The researchers observed that in several spots, these man-made channels were directing water flow in a way that was disrupting the natural movement of sediment.
So it's like those outlet channels we talked about earlier. We're changing the natural flow of water, which impacts the sand.
You got it. And the study suggests that modifying or relocating these channels could potentially reduce erosion in certain areas.
That's fascinating. So it's not just about building new things, but also about rethinking how we've already altered the environment.
Exactly. And this highlights the importance of community involvement. Local residents often have valuable insights into how their beaches have changed over time and what measures might be most effective.
Okay, so let's bring this back to Phuket. What does the future hold for their beaches? Are they destined to disappear?
Well, the study's projections are certainly concerning, but it's important to remember that they are models, not guarantees. And even under the worst-case scenario, there are still steps that can be taken to adapt and mitigate the impacts.
Give me some hope here. What are some of those steps?
One potential solution they highlighted is beach nourishment. While it's not a perfect fix, it could buy some time and help protect some of the most valuable beaches.
So there's still a fighting chance for Phuket's beaches.
Absolutely, but it will require proactive planning, collaboration between government agencies, scientists, and local communities, and a willingness to adapt to a changing environment. This is a challenge faced by coastal communities around the world, and it's going to take a global effort to find solutions.
This has been a real eye-opener. I feel like I have a much better understanding of the complexities of beach erosion and sea level rise.
Me too. And I think it's crucial to remember that beaches are more than just beautiful vacation spots. They play a vital role in coastal ecosystems, shield our shorelines from storms, and support local economies.
So we need to do everything we can to protect them.
Absolutely. And as we've discussed, there are things we can all do, both individually and collectively, to make a difference.
This deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about, and I'm feeling inspired to take action.
That's fantastic to hear, and I hope our listeners are feeling the same way. We'll wrap up our deep dive into Phuket's beaches in the next segment, exploring some final thoughts and takeaways. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Phuket's beaches.
It's been a fascinating journey exploring the science, the challenges, and the potential solutions.
We've uncovered so much, from the surprising link between sediment grain size and beach stability to the looming threat of rising sea levels.
Definitely.
But before we wrap up, there's one more aspect I wanted to touch on, something called beach zoning. The study mentioned it as a potential management strategy.
Yes, beach zoning. It's essentially a way to create, different areas on the beach for specific uses.
So like designated spots for swimming, surfing, or fishing.
Exactly. And it can also involve setting aside zones for conservation to protect sensitive habitats or wildlife nesting grounds. Imagine areas dedicated to preserving fragile dune systems or safeguarding the nesting sites of, say, endangered sea turtles.
I see. Yeah, I can see how that could be helpful in minimizing conflicts between different user groups. Surfers and swimmers wouldn't be competing for the same space, and sensitive natural areas would be protected from human disturbance.
Precisely. And beach zoning can also be a valuable tool for managing erosion and other environmental impacts. For example, you could limit development in areas prone to erosion or restrict access to vulnerable dune systems. It's all about finding that, delicate balance between human use and environmental protection.
Yeah, that theme of balance has really resonated throughout our deep dive. It's clear that beaches are intricate systems that demand a holistic approach to management.
Absolutely. We can't just focus on one isolated aspect, like erosion or sea level rise. We need to consider the interplay of all these factors and how our actions impact the entire ecosystem.
It's like a giant puzzle where all the pieces are interconnected. Removing or altering one piece can have, like, ripple effects throughout the entire system.
That's a great analogy, and it highlights why collaboration is so crucial. Scientists, policymakers, local communities, and even tourists all have a role to play in protecting our beaches.
So, taking a step back, what are some of the key takeaways from our deep dive into Phuket's beaches? What do we really want our listeners to remember?
First and foremost, I hope we've conveyed just how valuable beaches are, not just as vacation destinations, but for their crucial roles in coastal ecosystems.
Yeah.
Their protection of our shorelines from storms and their contribution to local economies, they are truly precious resources.
Absolutely. We've also seen that beach erosion is a complex issue driven by both natural forces and human activities.
Yeah.
It's not a simple case of nature versus humans. It's much more nuanced than that.
Exactly. And we've learned that rising sea levels pose a significant threat to beaches around the world, potentially leading to the loss of many of these beloved places. But we shouldn't despair. There are things we can do to address these challenges.
That's right. From beach nourishment and dune restoration to responsible coastal development and beach zoning, there are solutions out there. But it's going to take a concerted effort from all of us.
I completely agree. And even small individual actions like staying off dunes or picking up trash can collectively make a difference. It's about recognizing that we are all stewards of these incredible natural wonders.
This deep dive has definitely left me with a newfound appreciation for beaches and a sense of urgency to protect them. What's the one thing you want our listeners to walk away with today?
I want them to remember that beaches are dynamic and resilient, but they need our help. By understanding the challenges they face and taking action to protect them, we can ensure that future generations will be able to experience the magic of these incredible places.
That's a powerful message. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into Phuket's beaches. It's been an enlightening and inspiring journey.
It's been my pleasure. And remember, folks, every beach day is an opportunity to make a difference. Let's cherish and protect these natural treasures.
That's a perfect note to end on. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.